So I think one of the best ways of actually describing this year's Phoenix Suns team is to actually put it in a movie theater box office analogy. And it's pretty simple. You know, in Hollywood, sometimes they spend $200, $300 million on a flick. And occasionally those movies, quite frankly, flop. Yeah, they end up making 25 to 50 million in the box office. Well, this year's Phoenix Suns team, which currently has a payroll worth $234 million to this point of the season, has the Phoenix Suns currently in 12th in the Western Conference. To say that the Phoenix Suns are a flop this year is an accurate statement. Now, I'm wondering, is there actually a way the Phoenix Suns can actually solve their problems? That is going to be the discussion on today's NBA Rundown. But first, we begin with how this all started. Yes, we are going to start with the big Bradley Beal trade. I've got some great sound from one Kendrick Perkins, who I often disagree with.
A blockbuster deal Sunday involving the Suns and Wiz. Phoenix acquiring three-time All-Star guard Bradley Beal.
Bradley Beal, KD, and D-Book. James Jones is out here selling used cars for Rolls Royces because that's exactly what just happened. The Phoenix Suns with this big three should be the favorite of coming out of the West and winning next year's title.
So to be fair to Kendrick, well, no, I'm not going to do that. Look, there is no being fair with Kendrick Perkins after that statement, after what we saw last year with the Phoenix Suns losing in the playoffs to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, the Phoenix Suns were 3 games under 500 yesterday. They ended up actually winning on the road tonight against the Philadelphia 76ers, and of course, Joel Embiid didn't play. The Suns are currently 16 and 18 and are holding steady at that 12th spot in the Western Conference. Now, they finally went ahead and made some roster moves, so to speak, by benching Nurkic and also benching Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal at least responded well to that tonight in Philadelphia, putting up 25 points. And I've been thinking about this a lot when it comes to this Phoenix Suns team. If they're not going to make any more moves, then the solution, if there is a solution to this particular problem, it probably comes down to who starts and who comes off the bench. Now, Nurkic is proved to be one of the biggest, most disappointing players in the NBA throughout his career. And while I certainly try to keep these videos, quite frankly, as positive as possible, if you've had a chance to watch Nurkic play bad on defense, you've probably also had the opportunity to watch him play even worse on offense. It's hard for me to remember there actually being a player that has accomplished the following task, which is actually turning the ball over more than they actually get assists in a particular or in games in general. Look, at the end of the day, the rumor mill is certainly running rampant at this point. You know, we're about a month and a half away from the, or actually less than that, about a month away from the NBA trading deadline. And we have all heard that, I'm sure at some point, Kevin Durant's going to say he wants out of Phoenix. Now, I think before that happens, the Phoenix Suns will try to do something with Bradley Beal. It has become very clear to everybody watching, both in and outside of the Phoenix metropolitan area, that this big three just quite frankly, despite what Kendrick Perkins actually thought, just simply doesn't work. And if it's not going to work, then you should try to mix things up. Now, I'm sure the Phoenix Suns are going to be able to go to Bradley Beal and say, hey, Bradley, we know you have a no trade clause, but we want to do right by you. We want to move you to a different team. Look, Bradley Beal's making a ton of money in his current contract, and I'm sure will continue to make a ton of money for years to come. In fact, he's got a couple more years left on the deal that he currently has. He's making over $50 million this year. Devon Booker is making just under $50 million. Their entire payroll currently is at, as I mentioned, they're in for $234 million to this point. That is a significant amount of money that they are actually on the hook for. And it does actually get worse next season when Bradley Beal goes up to $53 million, followed by the last year of his deal where he's actually going to make $57 million to be a bench player with somebody. Now, look, the big problem with Bradley Beal isn't when he's healthy. We know that Bradley Beal, when he's healthy, is a very good player. The problem with Bradley Beal and Devon Booker and Kevin Durant is, quite simply, there's just not enough basketballs to go around. So I think for Phoenix to actually become a better team, I certainly, if I were the Phoenix Suns, would try to hold on to KD and would certainly try to hold on to Devon Booker. And I would use Bradley Beal to bring in some other players that are actually going to fit better with Kevin Durant and, of course, Devon Booker. And maybe along the way, find a way to get back some of your draft picks. Because I think at this point, it is safe to say that this Phoenix Suns team's ship, at least the ship that Kendrick Perkins thought he was on, or thought the Phoenix Suns were on, which was that the Phoenix Suns were the team to beat coming out of the Western Conference, I think it's become very clear at this point that that is not the case. And fixing the Phoenix Suns is probably a 12 to 24 month project. In other words, if they're going to actually make some moves, the time to actually go ahead and make those moves is probably now. And the best player that they're going to be able to get the most amount for at this point, outside of trading Kevin Durant, is, of course, Bradley Beal. Remember, if you're the Phoenix Suns, you want to hold on to Kevin Durant. You want to hold on to Devon Booker. Those are your two key components. You want to bring in some other players that, quite frankly, are going to mesh better with them and that can also come off of the bench. Now, who are those players exactly? You know, we've all heard the rumors about Jimmy Bucket Butler. We know that Jimmy is going to be traded to somebody at some point. Will the Phoenix Suns be the place where Jimmy ends up? Regardless of whether or not he does end up in Phoenix, I can tell you that the very idea of Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant, and Devon Booker playing together is scary, especially if you're a Phoenix Suns player. Because if you thought there was a problem before with the more passive Bradley Beal, drop in the type A personality of a one Jimmy Butler, and let's just see how many basketballs they really need to have on the court at a single time if you're going to have Kevin Durant, Jimmy Butler, and Devon Booker out there. So I don't think a Jimmy Butler move to Phoenix, actually from a basketball perspective, makes a lot of sense for this team at this point. There are certainly some other big men out there in the NBA that would be very good for the Phoenix Suns to go out and pick up, like a Valanciunas. Look, they need some help down low. They need more help down low than they need perimeter shooting at this point. So while the names look big, and yes, the Phoenix Suns have that new owner there that likes his shiny coins and shiny toys, ultimately a basketball championship is won a lot of times in the trenches, and the Phoenix Suns at this point simply don't have anybody of any legitimacy that are actually in the trenches. All right, I'd love to know what your thoughts are. Please go ahead and drop your comments in for the NBA Rundown. I'm Dave DeBaugh, wishing you all a tremendous rest of your sports viewing day.
I don't have never slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.